This up just a little bit, though. Okay.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 15th Annual Cherish a Child special virtual event benefiting the Children's Advocacy Center of Jackson County. I'm Matt Jordan of KOBI-TV NBC5, and I'm honored to be a part of this event once again. Now, these last 2 years have been a struggle with the repercussions of COVID-19 and last year's recovery from the devastating wildfires. Our community has always been strong, and in these times of immense distress, it becomes a safety net to its citizens in their greatest need. I believe that those of us who so passionately believe in the power of community are seeing this play out right now. Our strength has always been manifested at the local level. We, as a community, can face anything. We will get past this. We will recover from COVID as sure as we recovered from last year's wildfires. We do this because, as a community, we unite and band together for the greater good and for our fellow neighbors. Today's event is about our communities and how we can unite to respond to child abuse here in the Valley. It's about how we all can work together to bring hope and healing to the children who suffer abuse in our community. More than ever, the Children's Advocacy Center needs your support and your help to continue providing the critical recovery services that are needed for children who experience abuse to recover. I would like to thank you all for tuning in to this very special event right now. Now, I invite you to leave behind your personal and your business lives and focus your attention on the children of Jackson County who need your help. It takes a lot of people to address child abuse on a daily basis: police officers, prosecutors, doctors, therapists, advocates, forensic interviewers, and so many more. And I have to say personally, I just don't know how they do it. It's hard enough just telling some of the stories on the news each night. I can only say that we are all in awe of the work that is done to help the children in our community. Now, there are a few topics that are more difficult to discuss other than child abuse, but we have a problem in this community. Abuse is not acceptable, and it needs to be addressed head-on. This is a community problem, and it requires all of us, every person tuning in to this event, to stop it. Today is an invitation to be part of that community response, to make a promise to our children so we can give them the gift of hope and healing. It's also a time to celebrate the CAC's role in our community in addressing child abuse and to help those affected to be healed. Our goal today is to invite you to be a part of the community response to child abuse and inspire you to help the Children's Advocacy Center to intervene in the lives of children in our community who suffer from abuse. All of your efforts, your contributions, no matter the amount, make the center what it is: a grassroots organization that provides evidence-based, trauma-informed interventions that transform the lives of the children we serve. The Children's Advocacy Center of Jackson County's vision is communities where families are strong and children are safe. The CAC would like to give a special thank you to Southern Oregon Pediatrics and Jim Collier for their generous support of the Children's Advocacy Center and for their support of today's event. Their gifts shine a bright light in our community for the children who experience abuse. We would also like to thank the contributing sponsors who made not only today's events possible, but lead the way in our community response to address the issue of child abuse, starting with Southern Oregon Pediatrics, Asante, Prime Care, General Credit Service, John L. Scott Real Estate, Mahar Homes, John and Diane Williams Engelhart, Mark and Kathy Huddleston, artists John Collins and Donna Andrews and Associates, Road Credit Union, KOBI-TV NBC5 and Pilot Rock Productions, Impact Publications, and Mustard Press. Thank you for your support of the Children's Advocacy Center and the youth and families we serve. We'd also like to thank today's co-chairs, Rick Dyer, Jackson County Commissioner, Mayor Randy Sparacino, Medford, Mayor Julie Akins, Ashland, Mayor Hank Williams, Central Point, Mayor Donna Brown of Jacksonville, Mayor Terry Baker, Phoenix, and Mayor Darby Ayers Flood of Talon. We would also like to thank the staff members of the CAC, the board members, the Advisory Council, and the CAC's many incredible volunteers. We'd also like to thank all the individuals who have taken the Protect Our Children abuse prevention training. Now, if you'd like more information on this training, you can please contact Lacey Elliott. That's L-L-A-C-Y Elliott, with 2 L's, at cacjc.org, Elliott@cacjc.org. Without all of these amazing individuals, the Children's Advocacy Center would not be able to do what they do to help the children of our community. Now, I would like to introduce Eric Rodriguez, President of the Board of Directors for the Children's Advocacy Center. Eric worked 26 years as state trooper, with 6 of those years in Medford and Central Point. He responded to more calls than he wants to remember of children being abused or neglected. He soon learned that each of those instances would be hard to forget. After retirement from the state police, Eric became the co-director of campus safety at Southern Oregon University and a CASA volunteer. 6 years ago, Eric was recruited for the CAC board and has been honored to work with the other board members and executive directors to support children in our community. Eric?
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Children's Advocacy Center of Jackson County, welcome to this Cherish a Child virtual event. Thank you to our host, Matt Jordan from KOBI TV5 for being with us again this year. We appreciate you. Our theme this year is Communities United for Children. We have 2 wonderful speakers, Jackson County District Attorney Beth Heckert and Blake Wernick, that will help us understand the issues our communities face combating child abuse regionally and nationally. Before I introduce our next speaker, I would like to acknowledge and congratulate Lauren Regnani and the staff at General Credit Service for their outstanding work on behalf of the children and families we serve. Lauren and General Credit Service are this year's recipient of the Karen Doolin Service Award. I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker. Tammy Pitson is the Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center of Jackson County. She has been our leader for the past 8 years, and leadership has never been more important than in today's climate. We are lucky to have her in our community. Tammy has worked for more than 30 years intervening in child abuse cases with 19 years in the Children's Advocacy Center movement. Currently, she serves on the Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Fund Advisory Council and the Children's Justice Act Task Force under the Oregon Department of Justice. Please welcome Tammy Pitson.
Thanks, Eric. It's my distinct honor to be the Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center of Jackson County. I'm so happy to be able to spend some time today talking about the CAC and the important work we do in our community. Last year, we held our first virtual events, and while we were hopeful to return in person this year, that has not been possible. So thank you again for joining us virtually for a second year. For those of you who are learning about the CAC of Jackson County for the first time, I would like to outline the services we provide and that really drives the mission and vision of the CAC. We are a grassroots organization formed by a group of professionals and lay people who recognize the system was not designed for children who suffer abuse. They built the organization from the ground up using community resources and partnering with law enforcement, child welfare, advocates, medical providers, therapists, the district attorney's office, local government, and many other members of our community. We provide forensic interviews, medical evaluations, treatment and consultations, therapy interventions, advocacy and support services, and community education on child abuse and child abuse prevention. We are a charter member accredited of the National Children's Alliance. Reflecting back over the last year and a half we have spent in the pandemic, what I can tell you is that it has been really stressful for staff and team partners. It has tested resiliency of our staff and team partners, and it has thrown a lot of curveballs at our staff and team partners. What it hasn't done is stop the work being done to address child abuse in Jackson County. I'm proud of our board and staff for how we've responded. We have retained our very skilled staff throughout this very challenging time. We've continued to show up when it has been a little unnerving, and we have continued to provide critical services. In 2020, we provided 616 children who presented with 861 allegations of abuse, with 484 forensic interviews, 146 medical services and consultations, 1,092 therapy sessions, and 2,681 support and advocacy services. January to September 30th, 2021, we have provided 555 children who presented with 757 child abuse allegations, with 440 forensic interviews, 119 medical services and consultations, 768 sessions of therapy, and 3,114 support and advocacy services. In 2020, our multidisciplinary team reviewed 316 cases of abuse, and in January through September 2021, we have reviewed 276. The number of children served has been down during the pandemic. We believe this is not because abuse isn't happening, but we suspect that it's because children have been isolated away from those who generally make reports on their behalf. The part left out of the story told by the numbers is the trauma that accompanies these incidents of abuse and the lifelong impact that trauma has on the abuse sufferer. There is a study called the ACE study, Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. It links many health conditions developed by adults to their childhood trauma. Some of these conditions include heart disease, pulmonary lung disease, hepatitis, depression, and suicide. When I speak about the work done at the Children's Advocacy Center, I describe the services we provide as life-changing or life-saving. They are that and so much more. If we can provide the right interventions for children who suffer abuse, we have the opportunity to change our world. We can make it healthier. We can make it safer. If we can make interventions early enough as a system, we can prevent this trauma from ever happening. If a child does not receive appropriate intervention services, abuse can impact the rest of their lives. Children who are abused are more likely to develop eating disorders, drug use, risky sexual behaviors, self-harm, and health conditions that can impact them their entire lives. CAC, along with our multidisciplinary team partners, provide services that can help change the trajectory that children we serve get sent on when their abuse begins. The theme today is Communities Uniting for Children. While this is a unique theme for our luncheon, it is not unique in the work we do every day. Collaborating, teaming, working together for better outcomes is what the CAC is all about. It is how we were formed back in 1987. It is how we approach every issue together. We know we do our most brilliant work when we work together. Community. In Webster's, it's defined as a unified body of individuals. It goes on to list some examples. My favorite is a body of persons of common and especially professional interests scattered through a larger society. That is the CAC of Jackson County. A group of professionals and community members working together to find safety for children who have suffered abuse. Each of us has a role. We can all do something. When I think about how important the work of the CAC is, I usually think back to my early days of working for child protection in rural Louisiana when it was all so different. When I worked in a community that did not have a CAC. I think about the children that we could not reach. We could not reach them because we were never able to get a full 360-degree view of what was happening because we worked alone in a one-dimensional focus. I think of a young man who we were able to remove from his abusive home, but could find no one to help resolve his trauma, whose story we never fully knew, who was left to bounce around from placement to placement because his trauma was never treated. I think about the young girl who cried in my arms but would not disclose her abuse because it felt unsafe in the school's counselor's office. I think about the infant with a fractured skull returned to his parents with no answers as to what happened and no child abuse medical professional to explain to the judge that this injury did not happen falling off the couch onto a carpeted floor. I think about my friend Wendy, who I learned during a late night conversation was terribly abused and never disclosed to the dozens of times the authorities came to talk to her at her house with her abuse listening behind the closed door because it was not safe. She said she wished there had been a CAC. Her life would have been different. Not only would she have not suffered years of sexual abuse, but she might have lived her life feeling that she had value and was not worthless. Her words echo through my thoughts several times a week as I entered the CAC doors to begin my day. The work done at the CAC saves lives, plain and simple. Whether it be from the actual abuse or from the lifelong struggles that can result when abuse is left unaddressed. Our children deserve a community where children are safe and families are strong. We can give them that community if we all work together, if we all do our part. The CAC needs you to help us provide the best cutting-edge, evidence-based interventions available to the children who need them to survive. Give a gift, volunteer, take a class, leave a legacy of hope and healing. Today, we would normally be giving our awards out if we were in person. Because of COVID, we had to give those awards out separately. But today, I want to congratulate, on behalf of the Children's Advocacy Center of Jackson County, we would like to congratulate Russell Long and Long's Heating and Air Conditioning for their outstanding service to the center and the children and families we serve with the Champions of Children Award. Long's Heating and Air puts their support of children into action. If you follow them on social media, or if you are lucky enough to be a customer, you are already aware of this. They not only have been supportive of the Children's Advocacy Center of Jackson County, but also frequently support children in our community by providing back-to-school backpacks to children, by giving out snow cones every chance they get, the bike helmet giveaway, and so many other events that lift up the children in our community. The CAC recognizes Russell Long and the staff at Long's Heating and Air as our champions of children. Now, I would like to invite you to watch a video created by Pilot Rock Productions and KOBI TV5 titled Communities United for Children. Thank you again to our co-chairs for putting a spotlight on the importance of the community working together to address the issue of child abuse and the trauma it leaves behind. Coming together is really what the Children's Advocacy Center is all about. It's part of what we represent. We started out as a grassroots effort, so coming together is part of who we are, part of our DNA. We started when a group of community members and professionals in Jackson County came together to really talk about how could we better serve the children in our community who've experienced abuse.
I think for the children of this community, it's especially important right now that they know that they're beloved, that they're cared about, that they're seen, and that they will be protected by this community.
This year more than ever, after the effects of the pandemic and how that specifically affected children, I think it's more important, like I say, now than ever, for everybody in the Valley to come together to make sure that these kids are given the help that they needed, and the Children's Advocacy Center is one of the major players in making sure that those kids do get the help that they need. Raising awareness is important, making sure people understand. I think people are well aware of the issues. They may not be as aware of who is out there actually trying to find the solutions. I wasn't aware of everything. I mean, I was aware of the CAC, but I wasn't aware of everything that was done there. When I took the tour and talked to everybody involved, it really opened my eyes, not just to the solutions, but how large the problem is, and exactly what people that work for the CAC, it's a difficult job, and we need to support them all we can.
It does come from the top down. Community members take their cues on what's important based on what our leadership defines as being important.
Well, I think all elected officials need to ensure that child abuse and neglect is reduced, if not eliminated. It's very important to, like I said earlier, break that cycle of abuse, to stop the perpetual motion of abuse. And as a mayor, you have that voice. You're the unofficial spokesperson for a community, and it gives you that opportunity to speak out against violence against children.
I think the most important thing, I think, is the children. Because I've seen situations where if a kid is abused one time, it's gonna affect them for life.
As the mayor of Jacksonville, I think my role in helping the children of our county is to educate the public. You need to know what to do before, during, and after any event that might affect a child. Children's Advocacy Center can help you in many ways. All you have to do is pick up the phone or contact them by email.
The Children's Advocacy Center has been the bedrock for helping children in our communities for many years. They have a reputation of looking out for our kids, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. And I think that as the mayor of Ashland, I want to be clear that I appreciate the work they do, and I hope that all of the constituents and my friends and neighbors will also show appreciation and help them continuing to do the important work that they do.
The Children's Advocacy Center is about hope for tomorrow, hope for futures, hope for our children's future.
When you break that cycle of abuse, you stop it from happening in another generation and then a future generation. And I saw that firsthand in my prior experience in law enforcement, where you remove a child from either a violent or abusive relationship and you educate the family about abuse, you stop it from occurring over and over again. And you have that impact on the child, because children of abusive situations have a higher, on average, likelihood to be abusers themselves. And if you have that treatment and that coalescence that stops that violence and stops that abuse, and it moves them out of that cycle, you prevent a whole nother generation of feeling that pain.
If we can reach into the lives of these children that have been getting hurt and help them come to a point in their life where they would never pass that on, that's going to be the beginning of the end of this crisis.
We are a team. It's the Children's Advocacy Center staff, it's the board, it's community members, it's law enforcement, it's DHS, it's advocates, it's medical providers, it's therapists, it's forensic interviewers, it's folks at juvenile probation, adult probation. We are all, the district attorney's office, we're all working together to provide better outcomes for children who experience abuse. Why is that important? Because what we know is when we don't intervene, when we don't provide these coordinated services, when we don't early on provide the things that help with healing, the outcomes are not good, but not just in the beginning. The outcomes are not good over the span of the lifetime.
Speaking from personal experience, coming from a family that of women in my generation that experienced sexual assault as children, what the absence of intervention promises is a life fraught with difficult choices, difficult experiences, and makes becoming an adult extraordinarily challenging. The CAC is the organization that is focused on these issues.
I think the Children's Advocacy Center has touched so many children's lives that long-term impact on our community is just almost not measurable. I mean, a lot of times we won't even know what impact we had on that child's life, what changes we were able to make in that family, and what improvements we could do for that child. So we know the kids that come through the center, and we know the families, and we often hear from them afterwards about what a positive experience it was, how it was a terrible time for them and their families, but how they were able to make it through to the other side.
We know that the health of a community really is reflected in how we prioritize our children, how we protect our children, and what opportunities we give them.
I think my role is the same as everybody's role. Every person who lives in our community needs to be focused and interested in the advancement of children and the protection of children.
I had the opportunity to visit the Children's Advocacy Center every week for 2 months as a member of the grand jury here in Jackson County. I learned so much from that experience. I would walk in and see children without hope, and a few weeks later I might see those same children and they were different completely. They were smiling, they were happy, they felt safe. Children's Advocacy Center is so important in furthering the help that we give these children because they are our future. Children are our greatest resource. Everything that we can do to help the Children's Advocacy Center promote the health and welfare of these children is the greatest thing that we can do today.
And so what better way to do that, what more noble thing could we do than to all come together to provide the very best opportunities for the children in our community so that our community tomorrow will be one that we're proud of, that's high functioning, that takes care of its people, that provides healthy recreational outlets, that we are providing great opportunities for these children to live out a happier, healthier life.
I'd like to thank Tammy and our community partners for that video. Today we are very proud to have Beth Heckert, Jackson County District Attorney, as our first special guest speaker. Beth Heckert has been the elected district attorney in Jackson County, Oregon since 2013. She began her legal career in 1988 as a deputy district attorney for Jackson County and was the chief deputy district attorney from 2000 until 2013. Ms. Heckert has extensive experience in prosecution of criminal cases. She prosecuted child physical abuse and child sex abuse cases for many years. Beth has been active in community organizations. She's currently a board member of the Children's Advocacy Center, past president of Oregon District Attorney Association, and chair of the Rogue Valley YMCA. Beth Heckert is a member of the Medford Rogue Rotary. She is a past board member of Southern Oregon Head Start and the William V. Dethridge Inn of Court. She is a member of the Jackson County Public Safety Coordinating Council and Jackson County Bar Association. Here's District Attorney Beth Heckert.
I'm really excited this year about our theme, Communities United for Children. As a district attorney and a board member of the Children's Advocacy Center, I see firsthand how our communities are united for children. This past year, with all the challenges our community has faced with COVID, the smoke, with the fires, sometimes we like to look back on the good old days. So maybe we didn't have concerns about school closures and smoke staying in the valley for days on end, and all the loss of homes and businesses. But when we talk about children's advocacy centers and about the work that we do, the good old days were not that great. The children's advocacy idea came in 1987. It was just a group of community members, just like yourselves, coming together to try to fill a need. And the doors finally opened in 1991. And I remember that day. I remember going to the Advocacy Center on that first day that they were open. But prior to 1991, if a child reported abuse, they'd be taken to the police department, where they'd have to talk with an officer. They might even go multiple times to talk with a detective or an officer. And then if that child needed a medical exam, they'd have to go to the hospital or to an unfamiliar doctor's office to get a medical exam. And if the family wanted to get some kind of therapy for that child or the family, they'd have to go looking in the community to see what was available. And again, unfamiliar places for them to try to search out. And maybe it would be 6 months to a year when the case was ready to go to trial, and the child would come to the district attorney's office and meet with the prosecutor and with an advocate. So the good old days were not very child-friendly. But fast forward 30 years, and it's hard to imagine the impact that the Children's Advocacy Center has had on thousands of children's lives since those doors opened. Today, the Children's Advocacy Center is the center of our interactions with children and families. We have better outcomes, children are treated in a trauma-informed way, and they do heal from the abuse. Not too long ago, I was approached by a woman in our community. She came up to me and she said, "You probably don't recognize me and you probably don't remember me." But she told me, "You were the prosecutor who handled the case against my stepfather for sexual abuse." Then she told me, "I was 8 years old when I met you. You came to the Advocacy Center and you presented the case to the grand jury and you answered my questions and you answered my family's questions. And then I met with you again a couple months later at the Advocacy Center, and we met with my therapist and you started to prepare me for trial. And there was an advocate that came with you and she gave me this small rock, and I still have that rock today. She told me that now she's graduated from college and she's gone on to have a career where she's helping children who find themselves in a situation just like her. So for her and so many other children in our community, this work is really important. It has life-changing impact on children and families. And at the center of that work is the Children's Advocacy Center. All of the professionals coming together under one roof to serve that child. The police officer, the doctor, the therapist, the prosecutor, the advocates. The hub is the Advocacy Center. We all go there. The Advocacy Center has a vision, and it's my personal aspiration. A community where children are safe and families are strong. I want to thank you for your support of the Advocacy Center, and I think with your help, we can see that vision be a reality in Jackson County.
Next, I'd like to introduce Blake Wernick, Director of Communications for the National Children's Alliance of Washington, D.C. Blake Wernick leads communication efforts at the National Children's Alliance as the force behind the nation's 924 children's advocacy centers, helping to shape the movement's collective voice for kids through branding and public awareness, telling the CAC story in traditional media, and reaching audiences through digital, social, and new media platforms. Blake works to build tools and influence to help CACs around the country bring hope and healing to abused kids.
We see the CAC movement here at NCA as being something that is both democratically driven by our 924 members around the country, as well as something that is driven by the actual community needs and assessments and shared data that we're all collecting as we serve children and families. Really, from our perspective, what animates this whole movement is that everybody knows something that someone else doesn't know. Everybody is good at something that someone else is not good at. And when we have this movement together, we don't just have 924 individual CACs kind of providing, making the same hamburgers and giving them out. We actually have an amazing creative and scientific ferment that allows us to do even community-based research, but also to have that research really gain traction very, very quickly and go from the theoretical into something that's used every day in CACs and changing children's lives. Gathering information through our outcome measurement system and even through the new youth feedback survey, gathering all of the statistics, it's a lot of work, and we understand that on top of serving children and families, there are so many things that NCA asks for from local CACs. We ask them to submit those stats. We ask them to participate in the outcome measurement system, OMS. And in return, really what we hope to provide to children's advocacy centers like the Jackson County CAC are the tools that they need to be able to actually make their practice better in the ways that they know that it can be. So we look at feedback from caregivers, those parents, grandparents, foster parents that are taking a child in their care into the CAC to get those services. We're looking at feedback from multidisciplinary team members, and now even from youth and children who are coming in the doors. And we're getting a sense of the national picture. What are the issues? What are the areas in which the entire national movement needs to improve their service to kids? For example, one of the things that we talk about a lot is engagement in treatment. And we know that the answer to that, from digging through all of the survey results that we have, has to do with the victim advocacy. And that's something that, your center, led by a director, Tammy Pitson, who, is herself from a victim advocacy background, knows well and has a career of experience to be able to bring the best tools for engagement to the rest of the movement. So we ask for a lot, but we also provide back opportunities like the early engagement program training that we're offering to victim advocates around the country to help them make the case to make sure that those kids get a warm handoff. And it's not just a referral on paper or a phone call from a doctor, but in fact, hi, I'd like you to meet our clinician and they're going to be taking care of you. And, we think it's going to be really important for you and your family to get the help that you need. So, that sort of, it's not just what NCA provides to its local members, it's also this connection of having, CACs and NCA and state chapters kind of in this movement where we have this knowledge sharing process. And the information that and the expertise that we get from local CACs like Jackson County goes all the way up into the standards that inform the acceptable level of care that kids deserve to get. That we set every 5 years. And in fact, this CAC was instrumental in developing the victim advocacy standard. It's really remarkable. And this year, we are on track after seeing the number of kids, really fall through the cracks during the pandemic, now to have the largest number of kids served that we ever have across the country, on track for more than 400,000 kids receiving services at CACs across the country. It sounds like a bad thing, but the thing that we know is that those children would be experiencing abuse with or without our help. So the fact that we're able to reach them through you and through your work and through the support that you have for your CAC is really remarkable. But what we'll say is that at NCA, our role here is federal advocacy. We want the federal government and state governments to take a bigger share of the responsibility for the needs of children. But for so many CACs that are community-based, like the CAC of Jackson County, that support from the community is absolutely critical. No CAC wants to be in a position where all of its eggs are in one basket and where all of its support comes from the state government or all of its support comes from the federal government or from one big event every year. That ongoing support from donors and from people within the community that really donate their time, their energy, their money, their passion to keep the CAC going. We can provide as much federal support as we possibly can, and we certainly do that every day. But it really is the community that keeps CACs going. And those donation dollars, even if it's just a small amount, it's something that says that we have skin in the game, that we are all in on, on the process of making sure that the children in our community are cared for. And that is really what powers the CAC movement. Well, I'll tell you what it would be like for kids without the CAC. We actually know what that looks like. And in some communities in this country, there are still places that children don't have access to CAC services. We don't need to imagine a terrible alternate reality where children don't have access to these services, because we're still living in that time. While we cover more than 80% of the child population in this country with services through children's advocacy centers, we haven't reached a point where we actually have guaranteed that coverage. This is still a really special and really important thing, and it's something that needs ongoing support to survive. Those kids that don't have access to a children's advocacy center, they may be interviewed multiple times, and this is something that can be exploited by the defense for any apparent inconsistencies in the story. They may be interviewed in places that are scary to them or where they think that they're in trouble. the back of a squad car or an interrogation room or something like that, where they think it's maybe they've done something wrong. And they're not necessarily given access to these trained forensic interviewers who are able to make sure that the experience of telling the worst story of their lives isn't made worse for them and isn't actually the worst part of the process. That's why we exist. And as we've moved together, as we've grown together as a movement, we've added so many more reasons why the CAC is a positive place to come. And it's not the worst part of the experience, it's the best part of the experience. These are truly child-centered facilities with people who truly care about children, and partners from law enforcement and prosecution and child welfare and so many other disciplines who come together and give up a little bit of their power to make these consensus decisions together because it's what's best for the kid. And that is what's amazing. When we get the opportunity not only to get justice for the kid and get that investigation done, but to continue to help them and their families on their path back to helping that child go back to being a kid. That is what is really, really remarkable about our movement. And it's only going to get better from here. One of the things that we really try to do here at the National Association is to make sure that all of those needs of our members, big and small, are met. You know, from my perch here in Washington, I can't sit here and pretend that I haven't learned something from Tammy Pitson and from the CAC of Jackson County. Every time I talk to a CAC, I learn something that I didn't know. I become more aware of an emerging issue. I become more aware of what it's really like on the ground. And that really informs my ability to be able to talk about this work and to make the case for it nationally and to build, you know, the stature of the CAC movement's brand and understanding across the country. There's no way that we could do this work without you doing this work either.
Thank you so much to Beth Heckard for the work you do in our community, and Blake Wernick from the National Children's Alliance for your work on a national level to bring awareness to the problem of child abuse. Now, if you want to keep children safe from abuse, but you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and you're not sure exactly where to start, one of the many services that the CAC-JC offers is the Protect Our Children program. Its mission is to teach adults to recognize and respond to child sexual abuse. Taking this class can be a powerful step to take to keep the children in our community safe. This training will teach you how to prevent child sexual abuse, how to spot signs of abuse that have occurred, how to respond if you suspect abuse, among others. This training is free, and it's only an investment of about 2 hours of your time. We can hold small classes in person, and we can also do classes virtually. If you're a business owner or an organization leader, we are able to provide a private training for your whole team at no charge. If you're an individual wanting the training, we hold monthly classes. And if you want more information on the Protect Our Children child abuse prevention trainings, you can contact Lacey Elliott, phone number there, 541-494-1780. Now I'd like to introduce Patsy Smolin. Patricia C., or Patsy Smolin, of Medford, Oregon, is president of the California-Oregon Broadcasting Incorporated, which includes 5 TV stations and a digital production company. Patsy serves as a Willamette University trustee emeritus, AAA Oregon Idaho board member, SMART Rogue Valley Leadership Council member, Oregon Community Foundation Southern Oregon Leadership Council member, and is a member of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival board. She's a former board member of the National Association of Broadcasters and the NBC affiliate board. Patsy.
Thank you, Matt, from KOBI TV NBC5 for being our MC today. Congratulations again on your new baby girl. Child abuse does exist right here. In fact, many children in our community suffer abuse. The truth is, 1 in 10 children across our nation will be abused by their 18th birthday. In Jackson County in 2020, even in the middle of a pandemic crisis and schools shut down, there were 707 children who the CAC found to have experienced some type of abuse. The CAC has always been about uniting professionals together for the common good of the children in our community who experience abuse. You can be a part of this community's response by helping to ensure that the Children's Advocacy Center continues to have the resources needed to provide professional, life-saving services to children who have suffered abuse, and that these services are provided by highly skilled professionals in a very caring, compassionate, trauma-educated way. By making an investment into the CAC, you will give a child who's been abused the critical services they require to heal. Your investment covers the costs associated with providing forensic interviews, medical treatment, therapy interventions, and support and advocacy for children served by the CAC. Nelson Mandela sums it up best, quote, "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. Our children are the rock on which our future will be built, our greatest asset as a nation. They will be the leaders of our community," unquote. Please join us in our efforts to keep kids safe by giving a gift by texting Cherish 2021 at 44-321, mail us at 816 West 10th Street in Medford, or contact Bobby Abernathy at 541-734-5437, extension 1011. Every gift, no matter the size, goes a long way in our efforts to help children heal after abuse. On behalf of the Children's Advocacy Center, thank you for joining us today and being a part of our community. Let's unite for the children. Thanks.
Patsy, thanks so much. And before we go, we want to say thank you once again to everyone who participated in today's event. A special thank you to our community leaders: Rick Dyer, Jackson County Commissioner; Mayor Randy Sparacino of Medford; Mayor Julie Akins of Ashland; Mayor Hank Williams of Central Point; Mayor Donna Brown, Jacksonville; Mayor Terry Baker of Phoenix; and Mayor Darby Ayers-Flood of Talent. Thank you to the Planning Committee who helped make today's event happen: Donna Andrews, a volunteer; Eric Rodriguez, CAC-JC Board President; Kirsten Arguin, CAC-JC Board Secretary; Laura Horton, CAC-JC Past Board President; Mark Huddleston, CAC-JC Board Member; Tyler Holbrook, Road Credit Union Volunteer; Bobby Abernathy, CAC-JC Director of Development; and Lacey Elliott, CAC-JC Outreach Coordinator. A thank you to Pilot Rock Publications and KOBI TV NBC5, Pete Bedell, that is, Senior Editor; Brian Horton, Production Coordinator; and thank you to our board members: Eric Rodriguez, President; Kristen Allison, Vice President; Tim Heim, Treasurer; Kirsten Arguin, Secretary; Laura Horton, Immediate Past President; Dr. Diane Engelhart Williams; John Blackhurst, Connie Eaton, Beth Heckert, Mark Huddleston, Amy Tiffey, Christine Walker, Todd Hobbs, Steve Zirkle, and Stacy Dimmick. And a huge thank you to our advisory council: Randy Jones, Donna Andrews, Janet Bagley, Mark Wisnowski, Mark Eisenstein, Bill Thorndike, Dr. Barbara Sibley, Karen Doolin, Kathy Mustard, Billy McCauley, and Charlie Baggett. On behalf of the CAC-JC and myself, I would like to thank you for attending today's special virtual Cherish a Child event. Thank you so much, and have a great day.